In this screencast, we'll take a look at some tips for creating effective presentations using Google Slides. Now, there are sort of two types of presentations. There's one where you're accompanying a talk that you're giving, somewhat like what I am doing right now. There are also slide decks where you'll be sharing these with folks to play on their own. And those are two different things, and I'm going to discuss both of them. Let's begin with accompanying a talk. The important thing is that slides should support and enhance what you are saying. They should not be the presentation. You should plan your presentation first, know what it is you want to say, and then use your slides to amplify what it is that you are saying. You don't want to have slides that distract from what you are saying, like this one. Another thing we want to avoid is slides that are filled with text, like this one, where we end up reading, "Hello, my name is Charlie. Today we're discussing how to use slides. Let's read this quote." It's very distracting to the audience because they see all the text, they want to start reading it. It might be hard to read if they're in the back of the room because the font is small, because there's so much text. So really want to avoid this. We want to keep the focus on your presentation. Let's use the slides to support that. One way to do that is effective use of images. You always want to use large, high quality, meaningful images. I got this image here off of a site called Pixabay. There are lots of sites where you can go that offer copyright free, royalty free images. And at the same time, less text. Again, you are presenting, the slides are supporting. Also, try some different backgrounds. What really helps your image or your text stand out? Here's a black background, same slide. Here's the same thing with a gray background. Always use contrasting colors so that your text and your image stand out against the background. So play around with different ideas. Don't just go with the first thing. See what works best. Sometimes the most effective thing is to let a picture go full screen like this one and not have any text at all. And don't forget that you don't need to rely on the internet. You can use your own photos. And often, if you're looking for something specific, that's the best way to go. And also, it's now your things that you are using. You have complete control over it. So if you have access to a smartphone or a camera or can borrow one, think about going out and grabbing your own photos for use in your presentations. And take the time to get a good quality picture. Let's talk now about transitioning from slide to slide. So, transitions are important because they alert the audience that something new is coming. Now, so far in this presentation, I've used what's called a dissolve transition, but there are other choices. We have, for example, a fade that looks like that. Here's one called a cube that looks like that. Be careful. The more dramatic the transition is, the more distracting it can become. So make sure that you balance keeping people's attention without making it too distracting. In addition to transitions, we also have animations like that. Animations are individual elements on a page that have some kind of movement associated with them. Some of the available options are fading in, zooming in, fading out, flying out, zooming out. Notice, by the way, how I animated these to appear one at a time. That's another option in Google Slides. I have a fly out to the right animation on this text. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, and off it goes. Again, experiment with what works best. Try to keep it subtle. You don't have things spinning all over the screen that get too distracting. Here are what the menus look like in Google Slides. So here's a slide transition, and dissolve is currently chosen. And here are what object animations look like. You have different choices. When do they occur? For example, do you have to click the mouse, or do they occur as soon as the previous one occurs. And here's by paragraph, which is the technique you use to have things appear one at a time, which is very effective if you don't want the audience reading ahead and you have some list of things to talk about. And you can also adjust the speed. I also wanted to show you, here's the format menu for images and for text, just so you can see there are many things that you can do. For example, adding a drop shadow is an effective way to have an image pop up from the background. You do want to use a theme for a consistent look and feel. So hopefully you've noticed in these slides so far that they feel connected in terms of how they look. And I'm just using a basic Google Slides theme here. There are other sites such as Slides Carnival that offer all kinds of themes. Again, I would be cautious to go with something that is elegant, simple, subtle. Don't get too flashy with your theme. You can actually edit your theme. So here, for example, is my theme, and I actually have made some edits to this theme. I've chosen some different colors, etc. But notice that when you now add a slide to the presentation, you can use any of these different layouts. And it's important to not have every slide have the exact same layout. So you may recognize that I've used this layout here, this one over here, this one, and it just gives some interest to each slide while still having a cohesive look and feel. Now, just to demonstrate, here is the same presentation using a different standard Google Slides theme, right? Same slides, different look, different feel. You want to choose a theme that just feels right for what it is that you are presenting. The key is, as I said, keep it simple. Don't let the slides upstage you. All right, let's switch over to standalone slides. So now we're making a presentation where somebody's playing it on their own. By the way, here's an image I took of my own computer last night as an example of using your own images of this presentation playing on a laptop. When you make standalone slides, the same concepts apply with some additions. One, it's okay to use more text because you're not there to be speaking. Therefore, you're going to have to express more in text on the slides. It's also okay to use smaller fonts. This is because people are not sitting in the back of an auditorium trying to read something on a screen. They're right there on a laptop or kiosk, and so they can focus in better or even increase the size if they need to. Also, consider including navigation choices for users. What I mean by navigation is something like this, where you can make a button. If I click this button, start over, it pops me all the way back to slide number 2. And I didn't show it at the time, but this slide is actually set up so that if you click this button, it actually takes you to the next slide. But if you click this one, it jumps you all the way over to standalone slides. And I'll show you how that's done. You select the image or the text, you insert a hyperlink, and one of the options is to link to another slide in the presentation. So imagine creating some slides where there are different options for folks to explore. You can link from images and from text. I hope you found these tips helpful. I'm always here to help with these sorts of things, and I wish you happy slides making.